Hey, everybody. Happy 2021. I hope you guys all had a safe holiday. My kids are home. I'm in Georgia, so the election was huge. I went and voted, and luckily, it was only 5 minutes in and out. And so it's a big day for us here in the United States. It's our voting day. Georgia elections are huge, if you don't know, wherever you guys are joining me from. 2021, I decided and I'm committed to my transformation. 2020 has taught me so much about myself. And I came to the realization this month, we're going to be talking about how clarity is our superpower. And last year, when we were really kind of shaken up due to COVID and pandemic, and those of us who run a business, it was thriving and then it was gone. And to experience that kind of experience and to come out of it even better than you know, last year with more clarity and focus in what I'm supposed to do in my career has been super rewarding for me. And as you guys know, I've launched the functional yoga medicine certification practitioner program. And we're doing this in a big way to sort of tie the gap of what I've been missing in this field as I've been in clinical field for the last 20 years with my background in psychology, nutrition, physical medicine, functional medicine, energy medicine, and yoga, and my personal sort of disappointments in the medical system here in the United States to realize that it wasn't the solution that I personally was looking for. It served me well in acute care setting to get me out of my sickness, out of the danger zone. But once I was symptom free and stable, creating health was another matter. And for a long time, I think I lived in this fear mindset of just being in fear of the next flare. It's almost like inviting the flares to come again and again and again. And I didn't realize how much stress underlying my life was. And it wasn't until I got really honest with myself and decided to do the work within me to explore and do the self exploration and reflection. It's the thing most of us resist because we've been so indoctrinated by our school system, our caregivers to believe and think whatever it is that we believe. But more importantly, I recognize that my self identity was subconscious. It was programmed. It was absolute truth for me, which wasn't the truth. And it was very limiting in my life. And I struggled so hard to get out of my thinking. And it's almost a meta concept that sort of blows your mind when you do the work on you, because self-reflection and self-study is something that I've always been interested in. I'm a self-help junkie ever since I was 15, right? Teenager, coming to the States at 11 years old with no language, like complete language barrier, and being so foreign. I remember being made fun of because of my accents, and I knew I was different. But all I ever wanted was to fit in, right? Because we are tribal creatures, human beings are. And it wasn't until I recognized that every single one of us are experiencing and having the same human experience. And it wasn't until I recognized that really the stressors and then the false identity beliefs that I held so dearly was keeping me from expansive growth in my life and in my business. And it was detrimental to my health and my relationships with my surrounding loved ones that I became really clear, and it was like a lightning bolt coming through me. And last year really was pivotal year for me to recognize and really cultivate courage enough to do the things that I'm doing right now, because there's always this self-doubt, not good enough feel, the imposter syndrome that you and I all struggle with. But here's the thing. As a healthcare practitioner for over 20 years, abiding by the rules, I know that I can have incremental impact in the line of work that I do, but it's very limited. And with the internet at play and with our world opening up through different platforms, it would be it would be a disservice to you if I kept my knowledge and my experience to myself, all the things that I've learned and failed at, to bring together a holistic, truly holistic program that serves more people, to up level your ability to serve your clients at a higher level. But that does require you too to go deep within to figure out what is your clear path, right? Why do you do what you do, right? Who are you really? What's your dharma? What's your destiny? What is your legacy that you want to leave behind in this world? Because we're all here so temporarily, and we spend so much of the time trying to fit in and to fit into a mold. But as I said, I felt like I was always making myself, it's like a square peg in a round hole. I never fit in, but I tried so hard to suppress who I was to try to fit into the physical therapy field, the registered dietitian field, the psychology field, functional medicine, yoga, Pilates, whatever it is that we learn. We're so conditioned to be very dogmatic in our viewpoints. And when we are that way, we become very much limited in our ability to make impact. We can only make incremental, very slow growth, right? Versus we can be very expansive and expand the lives of others. And really, we have the ability with the platforms these days on the internet to create programs to serve the world. We can scale in a big way. And so I really want this year to be a year where you expand your mind. And our January theme is all about clarity is power, because I don't think many of you have clarity in what you want to do, why it is you got into what you are doing. And even if you're going through certain certifications, or you're in medical school or in physical therapy school or occupational therapy school, whatever education that you're pursuing, it's not the end all be all. After that, it's only the beginning as an entry level practitioner in that field to serve the way you do. And every industry, especially in the healthcare industry, we're so limited by our scope of practices and our third-party payer system. Just recently, many of you, those of you who don't know me, I have my psychology degree, I have my master's in nutrition degree, I'm an RD, and then I have my doctoral degree in physical therapy. And so I've always had to just put my physical therapy hat on when I was practicing physical therapy, and then RD when I was practicing RD. Functional medicine is a completely different realm. Here's the thing though, is in every industry, there's set rules in how we do what we do. And through social media platforms like the Facebook, I belong to different groups in physical therapy, functional medicine, registered dietitians, and everything else in between, Pilates and yoga as well. And they all talk about, specifically in the healthcare industry, physicians as well as physical therapists and occupational therapists. We talk about how the reimbursements are getting cut every year. We're fast becoming commoditized. And unless we're able to really solve problems and serve our clients in impactful ways, that we're always going to be subject to that, right? Why do you want to go in and subject yourself to so much competition, being average, and it's cutthroat competitiveness, versus being in the blue ocean? It's called the Blue Ocean Strategy. It's a book, you guys. It's an amazing book. It's called Blue Ocean Strategy. It's about, like, red ocean is where it's bloody and competitive. Blue ocean, you have no competition because you set yourself apart. So here's the clarity part. Unless you know who you are on the inside, what you're about, not what you're conditioned to believe, not who you think you are based on what your caregivers have conditioned you to be, or your teachers or yourself, right? Because we have an interaction between our environment and the interpretations that we bring. And that mirror and that interaction creates the identity, the ego of who we are. And that belief kind of flows over into everything that we do: rule following, going into a certain profession, and then abiding by those rules and really putting our head down to do those things sort of limits us. It's almost like we put a box over our head and walk around with that limitation, limited scope. Everybody wants to box us, and every discipline wants to be very dogmatic in this approach. And I have the fortunate experience of experiencing different types of scopes of practice in many different healthcare industries, as well as fitness and wellness and health related industries. And I recognize that the more specialized you are, the more limited you become. And I've had many colleagues that defend their limitations and really arguing with me over why it is they can't do something because of their scope of practice, right? And guess what? When you argue against your limitations, all you do is you get to keep them. And so at some point I realized, I can be the practitioner that can truly integrate and bring together the pieces of the puzzle. And finally, the pieces are the specialists in our medical system and our health and wellness systems. Put it all together and really make sense of the human body to create health and performance from sickness, right? Because I believe the bridge between sick care and healthcare is completely missing. Most people live in substandard health and they think absence of disease is health, but it's not. They can barely go from sit to stand. I see them like that in a yoga class all the time. They have deteriorating muscles and spine and joints, and they have all kinds of musculoskeletal issues that limits them from function. And they are losing mobility quickly, and they don't recognize. And in fact, many of you, those colleagues that I studied with in yoga, functional medicine, physical therapy, occupational therapy, all the people that I surround myself that I've trained with all have some level of health difficulties in their lives. It's either they're addicted to something. Some of them in the health wellness industries, I've seen some addictions to the very thing, like addicted to exercise, addicted to not eating, deprivation, right? Or some people get really addicted to food, alcohol, medications, right? We've seen a lot of that. But you know what addictions are? It's our inability to cope with our emotions, and our self-identity sort of dictates sort of how we're going to behave, because our feelings, our identity triggers our thoughts. And really, beliefs are thoughts repeated over and over again that become beliefs. And it's hard to change our beliefs and our identity because it's so deeply conditioned. What I'm asking you in 2021 and in this month is to be clear about, is that the identity and belief that you want to keep? Because your identity and belief of who you think you are is really not so. You can always change it. It's just a little bit hard because it's a meta concept to unpack who you think you are, to realize who you are, and then start to change. We're not simple. We're very much attached to our egos and our identities. And the minute I call myself Connie, I'm attached to my name, and I kind of step into that role. And so I really want to free yourself, free your mind from being bound by the identities and the limitations of your beliefs about who you think you are, and then expand your mind to the possibilities this year. Because if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we're resilient and very flexible. And many of you have realized and recognized, my gosh, I better not have all eggs in one basket. You need to diversify. You need to dare to make a difference. You can live a meaningful, impactful lives serving the clients that you want to serve with joy. Doesn't have to be all hustle and painful and effortful. It can still be easy, especially when you're in alignment with what you're meant to do and you enjoy what you do, so much so that work-life balance is a blur, because when you're working, you're enjoying your life. This becomes a thriving thing. Like what I do every day, it doesn't feel like work to me. It feels like I'm changing the world and I have impact in some way, shape, or form. And in my small way, I'm making a contribution, right? And so that you can be practicing as well, not get lost in your industry or the title of who you think you are. Whatever limited beliefs that you have, we have to unpack it and really get clear, because again, clarity is power. When you step into knowing who you are and you dare and have courage enough to step into who you want to be and whatever it is that you want to create in your life, and dare to do that thing and really choose yourself in that regard and align yourself, everything else, you guys, the universe comes to support your every endeavor. So rather than getting lost on the how, thinking about no money, no time, no whatever it is, whatever limits that you set, think about the possibilities, because it doesn't have to be the way you think. You don't necessarily have to know the how. You just have to show up and decide to change your story, right? And change your identity. Choose to change and challenge your beliefs. And in the process, challenge the status quo of how you do what you do. Why you do what you do becomes clear. And from that place, you gain more power from that clarity, is the theme for this week. So if you don't know already, we have a Facebook group, Functional Yoga Medicine. It's where elevated conversations happen. We have a small Facebook group. It's private. It's called Functional Yoga Medicine. You answer a few questions and you get to be in. We share a lot of nuggets and I'll have elevated conversations about the things that nobody else is having conversations about. And it's really highly elevated and it's expansive. And you get to explore a lot of options to where you can expand your mind to do more, to be more in your life and find purpose and meaning in the work that you do, versus just letting another year go by and not knowing where you're going, right? And so I want you to have clarity in what you do, why you do what you do, and what you do without getting lost on the how, and then really be clear about who you want to be this year and what you want to create in your life. Again, clarity is power. So join me in Facebook group, and I would really, really appreciate it if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's going out right now, as well as iTunes. Subscribe to my podcast, and we can really build something great this year and really transform our lives and our minds from the inside and out. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you guys all next year. I'm super excited about 2021, what we're going to create together. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys